on up because Peter asked to be bumped, so we're gonna get you in first, and then you get to go home early. How about that?
Peter was just here.
Does that work for you?
Great, thank you.
I don't know which one.
We're gonna do planning board first. Okay, so for anybody who doesn't know, this is Dave George, he's our town planner.
Hey folks, how are you tonight?
Good, David, how are you?
Great, thanks. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. As you know, I'm the town planner and community development coordinator, and I'm here to present the planning board, the budget for the planning office. So this budget consists of 3 line items. One is the planning board wages, the second is the planning board town planner salary, and the other one is the planning board purchase services. The first item, planning board wages, this is the planning board stipend. Acting as a volunteer board, the board gets a small stipend as a show of appreciation, you know, for all the time that they put in looking at A&Rs and other land use matters. So this item has been reinstated, as you see on the sheet. It was reinstated from the last town meeting and it had been previously cut as part of budget savings efforts. The second item is the town planner salary. This item reflects a 2% cost of living increase, and it's consistent with the amount shown on the FY23 wage matrix for the MT5 graded job description. The last item is the purchase services line. This is for the Central Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission's assessment. This is part of an assessment that the CMRPC levies on all of its member towns and cities. Thank you very much. If there's any questions, I'm glad to try to answer them at this point.
That is your whole salary. None of this is being paid through the planning board revolving fund, correct?
That's correct.
Perfect, thank you.
You drove all this way for that?
Yeah, we fixed that last year.
Home?
I didn't say a word.
But since you mentioned it.
No, no questions for Dave?
Nope.
Nobody wants to ask anything?
It's pretty
I
basic.
have a lot to ask.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much, folks. Hope you have a good
Thank you,
night.
home.
Good night, David.
Doing a great job.
See, that's a piece of cake, huh, David?
Gets
Hey, Big
everything.
Doug.
There we go.
How are you?
There we Can't you say anything in French? Parlez-vous français?
Parlez-vous français? Sure, papa.
Nope. My son-in-law. is-
Six channels of hockey.
Oh, yeah,
6 playing, like games.
yeah.
And 3 news channels with just hockey.
Are you ready to go
It was
now?
I can go now.
All right, thank
There
you.
you go.
It's
Since
We
we're waiting
didn't
for
have
the
the
others.
we didn't have the problems I was afraid we were gonna have with somebody missing tonight, but she showed up, so everybody's,
Oh, see?
everything's going. Conservation too.
Conservation Commission.
Thank you. So, good evening. I'm Peter Crane, Chair of the Conservation Commission. I have an admission that I didn't have a lot to say about this budget this year because I was trying to work out how the heck the funding was working, because you might remember we all agreed that all of the expenditure should be funded from the Wetlands Protection Act fund. And somehow that appears to have not happened. And I spent time trying to dig through to figure that out. And I ran out of time with Ron, and so Ron basically copied the budget, which fundamentally is what I would have done anyway, to tell you the honest truth.
There's no changes to this budget. It's very small.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest one is clearly the administrator's salary. We pay fees to the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissioners. With all the work at home Tamika's done over the past years, we have been, she's been, because we are a paper-based organization, thanks to the Registry of Deeds, or have been, that she's been printing things off at home, and so we've been buying paper and ink for her. We've had some legal fees. That's likely, that will continue this year. And in fact, that will probably be higher this year, but I still think we have the budget to take it. We expect to put bylaws through the legal review process and put them into not at Maytown meeting, obviously, because we're not done, but probably before or by next annual, Conservation Commission will have its own bylaw or two.
Which line is your legal fees?
That's in your fund, it's not in there.
Oh, it's
You're
in
talking
the,
about you talking about bylaw fees?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
what,
it's
so
just-
we do purchase, I mean, I think we put that in
Article.
purchase services, Tamika, is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct. But it gets funded through the Wetlands
Yes.
Protection Act.
Bylaw article, though, it's, yeah, the bylaw article.
That's a different one. That is not gonna cover what Concom is working
Okay,
on.
that's a different one.
Yes.
So, what's the budget number of the request? I see it as the TAs is 900, and I see in the book here is 1,050.
He asked for 1,050.
Yeah.
He was reduced to 900.
Okay, all right. So the 450 became 300.
Mhm.
All right.
Any questions? Okay.
Big one.
There you go.
Thank you.
Ta-da.
Thank you, Peter.
Welcome.
Are you doing cable?
Yes. So Paul expresses his regrets at not being here. He actually has to be at 2 wakes tonight. Yeah, so it's, what a happy Thursday for him. So I'm
Yeah.
happy to present the budget.
Yeah, other than being in his shoes, sure.
Yeah,
What's his name? Johnny Brunel.
yeah, that's one.
Tommy, did you hear that one?
Yeah,
I don't know.
90 something. He's a
94.
Brunel Farms bought all the land, Lenny bought all that land from him.
That's
What
not-
are we doing now, cable committee?
Cable.
Yeah, if it's the one I gave you, then it's
Should
gonna be
make
the same as
changes to
this.
it.
Revolving account?
Mhm.
Yeah, cable's a revolving account, it's not general fund budget.
Right, so our total, I hope you have $163,002. Oh, you have 684.
62, 684. It's the one you gave me directly, so I don't know if you checked what you changed, but.
It's
No,
not on here.
well, I'm
This is-
looking at
this
my
is general
budget,
fund.
at the way I
That's
generate the
the-
budget. I have my own spreadsheet to generate the budget. That's how we do projects and how we do, and how we
This is your
manage
explanation.
it. So,
Your salaries and stuff if you need it, but that's,
right,
how you
so,
make any changes to what you did.
if
so-
you make, so what number do you have for salaries? I'll ask that question that way. What number do you have for salaries?
57,334.
Okay, beautiful. So, that includes, and don't panic when I say this includes the COLA and several step increases. We will not vary the salary until everybody can go for everybody. But because this is a special allocation of money from the cable access, that I would request that we put the whole thing that I've asked for in, so we don't have to do another special allocation when, if and when steps go up.
So we won't approve through payroll these steps until such time as everybody gets the
That's
steps.
It just makes it easier. You're only gonna request the money from Spectrum once.
Exactly,
And since the money's here, it doesn't have to come out of the other money that Carol's gonna be working with, so.
right.
Right.
I believe we have $21,320 in what we call purchase services, which is the money we send to the library every month, our payment for insurance, and, did that get deep?
22 grand is what you gave me, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, oh, that's true, I know why I did that, yes, 22,000, excuse me, to cover the money we give to the library every month, insurance, electricity, et cetera, that we use in the building, and all the software and hardware maintenance for all of our equipment. We have a straight $10,000 that we've used historically for incidentals, which is all the cables, small pieces of equipment that we just end up having to buy, memory cards, and so much stuff. And finally, we have an
Well, I have a
equipment.
question on that line.
Yes, sir.
What is the total amount in the fund that's available, not available, well, yeah, it's available, I guess. This is the budget, but what's the total amount in the,
Is roughly $432,000. I don't remember the exact
well,
amount.
that's okay, that's close enough. So my question on this one is on purchase services.
Yes.
You said as you pay the library.
Yep.
And I got the same question I've had for the last several years. Why can't the number that you pay the library go up some for usage?
They haven't asked and we haven't offered. We are at the point where, excluding the projects and special big equipment, we are spending more than we're getting from charter.
So you're drawing down the fund.
We're drawing down slowly
Yeah,
so far.
but you're drawing.
We haven't, so Charter gives us about $1,000 a year less each year than the year before. And I haven't seen the great drop-off that some other towns have seen, but we know it's coming.
What's the rationale for that?
Right.
Because fewer people are buying cable, they're doing internet-based services only. And so we don't get any of the cable TV
It's
funds
based
that
upon the
people
number
don't
of
buy it.
subscribers.
They,
Yeah.
they say.
We do also get, by the way, a small amount of internet fees, but it's much smaller. I'm sorry, go ahead,
No,
Ron.
the kind of standard out in the industry is because you don't know what's gonna happen with cable as it's falling off, is you wanna have a minimum of at least 1 to 2 years of budget in case you start losing those funds. Cause it's expected that cable is gonna change with all the online stuff.
Now, there's something I just realized we did not put on this, and I don't know where it's come from in the past. Next year is our contract renewal. Comes up every 10 years. And we're scheduled to get it done next year, and that is gonna mean legal fees.
Next year being 2023.
Yes, it should be, yes, calendar 2023 should be our renewal year.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I
Late-
guess my point of, when my question was, for a number of years, your budget was more like $80,000 for several years, and now in the last couple of years, it's bounced up quite a bit. Again, because I don't know, but I just think that with that kind of a balance there, that it wouldn't hurt to maybe support the library a little more to help with that budget.
I'm not against that, we do have to be careful because we are not given unlimited access to the funds. There is a certain amount of the funds, and I don't know what the numbers are off the top of my head, that were given to us explicitly and solely for capital improvements. So, all the money we spent in the last 2 years to upgrade our equipment, that we're going to try and extend that next year, is drawing down on that portion of the funds.
Right?
I wanna go,
Okay.
Shouldn't the
So-
library be asking that question? Shouldn't the library be saying, we need to pay more?
Well, maybe they should, but maybe we, no,
That's
anybody
really the
can.
job of the
That's
library
the-
trustees,
There-
truthfully.
Actually, on this topic, one of the things that's come up in the past year is that there is no formal written agreement between the library and cable, and we're gonna take care of that this year.
Okay.
so can we jump back, cause Peter says something that I didn't think
Well,
of. I
hold
think
on
it's-
1 second.
Okay.
Leah?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
I just have a quick question, and I think I understand, but for clarification, if you don't mind, and this is kind of from mine and Carol's project, for the cable salaries, that comes out of the cable budget. It's allocated put into the general fund then, or is it?
No,
I'm
it is
just-
not part of the general fund. It is appropriated completely from the cable access funds.
Okay, so when we are looking at steps and everything, that's a separate account that we should be looking at. That's the
That's correct,
clarification
and
that I
that's
needed.
why we put it in, and I've asked that we not take it out. We promise not to use the money, but it makes town meeting, well, it removes the requirement to have an appropriation later
Yep.
for this.
So pretty much, Leah, what this means is you can look at them, but when it comes right down to it, this won't have to be part of the
Of our total sum.
of your total sum that you're going to be looking for.
No,
Yep,
but
perfect. Thank you for that.
Not a problem.
out of practicality, it would mean they'd have to be done in conjunction with, so that everybody's treated the same.
Oh yeah, I'm not the least bit worried about that.
Okay.
Peter could be asking for it 6 ways to Sunday. I guarantee you that Becky's not going to let it go through.
Okay.
It's not gonna happen.
I don't worry
Agreed.
about that.
Absolutely.
I'm not worried that you'd ask, but I know Becky would stop it.
So again, if I could, because
Yep.
Peter brought out a point that's absolutely accurate, and because it's so far away, I didn't give thought to it in terms of the dollars. I did get from, because they send you out a notice from the cable company like 1.5 years that your cable company's gonna expire in 1.5 years, and that you've got to negotiate. The attorneys that are involved with that are very specialized attorneys. Matter of fact, it wouldn't even be part of Copeland and Page, because I don't know that they do that work. So there's only, I think, 3 or 4 of those attorneys across the state that negotiate cable contracts. I can tell you in Southbridge that we put aside $10,000 for legal fees. I don't know what, I don't know if it's quite that much for you or you're smaller, but it's the same
It's the
negotiation.
same. It's the same negotiation.
I don't
It's the
think it
same
changes.
process. We have been given the pointer to the attorney that Holden is currently using.
There's only 3 or
It's
4.
it's
I would say.
exactly
It's
that's
very
what he
few.
said.
So I would suggest that this is revolving for money, there's plenty of money there. I would suggest that you do put another 10 grand for legal fees. It probably won't get spent till the second half of the year,
Mhm.
but it's gonna end up having to be spent, because that contract has to be negotiated. And the contract's worth a lot of money, obviously, so you wanna make sure that you have the money in that account.
So when does the current contract expire?
About a year and a half.
It expires, honestly, I don't know the date
Okay,
off the
but-
top of my head.
Approximately a year and a half.
Okay, so towards the end of 2023, fiscal 2023?
Yes.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about a jump in a contract. You'll deal with that next year.
Correct.
Okay,
It's just the legal fees to negotiate the contract, that's all paid.
okay.
And it won't be spent until you get to the point of negotiation, so the worst thing that happened if for some reason it gets spent, it would just fall back into the revolving fund at the end, but
Right.
you need to have it there to be ready in case you have, in case it occurs. And I think the timing is such that you're gonna need, and maybe you won't even need a whole 10 grand, but you might as well put it there, because if you're only gonna use what you use anyway.
And when you say a jump in the contract,
Well, I'm
they're looking for a jump in the revenue that's coming in, they're trying to keep the contract from going down any further.
Right, so that,
okay,
so
all right,
we,
so I'm sorry, I thought it was a services contract. This is-
no, this is
All right.
the contract for them to be able to provide service to that town.
My
So
bad.
we get a share of revenue from that thing as part of it, but as their revenue goes down, the money we get goes down. And as Peter was kind of inferring to, it's broken down into two components: a regular payment for cable services and then a capital improvement thing, so you can only spend certain amounts in each area. But the numbers are falling across the state because cable services are falling across the
And
state.
that's going into the fund? The contract?
revenue-
Yes,
we
the
negotiate-
revenue from the contract goes into the
That's
cable
that
access
PEG
fund.
access that we hear
Yes.
about
Oh,
everything,
yeah,
cable
yeah.
PEG access.
Yeah.
That's all the money that comes in
I knew that
from
one.
the cable company, I think in Charter's this case, right?
It is.
All the money from Charter as part of that deal, once it's negotiated, then all the revenue that is a part of that contract that's negotiated goes to this fund.
Okay.
And it's split up in those two ways.
Okay.
But yeah, it does make sense to put aside like.
So you're saying it went down $10,000 this year?
No, what I'm saying is we didn't account for it when we put the budget together.
No,
sorry.
not the legal fees.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
The user.
The money we get from Charter for the fees decreases $1,000 every year.
1,000.
So far.
Right.
I have talked, what's that?
Is it a 10-year contract?
Yes. And I have heard of towns that would have dropped 30% in 2 years.
This contract's 10 years, it's not a 3-year contract. This is one of those few contracts that's a 10-year contract with a cable company.
And this may also, I mean, again, in terms of the legal fees, this one could be a far more complicated process this time because the feds are trying to do something with what the cable companies are allowed to deduct from our fees.
They're also-
As if we need help with that.
We're also trying to fight to reduce seriously the capital account. The capital money that they're giving the towns, they're fighting, the cable companies are fighting to reduce that significantly, because over the years, it's been pretty significant. That's all these cameras for the cable access that you're, filming, that's all paid through from that account.
So what you're saying is that what we're on right now, purchase services, you would rather see that at 32,000
Yes, please.
rather than 22.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry, I would say instead, if you don't mind, I would create a separate line item that says legal fees or cable negotiation. I wouldn't put it in purchase services.
If you like.
I would
Sure.
prefer that be separated out so that it's clear what that's for.
It's gonna hit that account anyway, regardless.
That's right.
It's gonna hit that
It's
account,
gonna come
but
in the
just.
same bucket as
It's
depends-
gonna be the same,
It's
right.
still a purchase service.
Yeah, but I understand what you're saying. It
I
just
think
makes
you
it
should
easier to
break it
stick it
out.
out, but you don't have to.
That way you know that
you
that
don't
money
have
can't
to.
be spent for any other purchase service, it can only be spent for the legal negotiations. That's why I wanna separate it, and I think you should
That makes
separate
sense.
it.
I leave it to the judgment
it's up
of
to you guys,
the
but-
people who are better with money than I am to figure out how we want to manage it this year. I don't care.
I mean, we don't even show the detail for, it's a lump sum for you
Right.
guys anyway.
Mhm.
At the budget, you don't have the detail anywhere in our budget.
Right.
Yeah, it's supposed, yeah.
So when we do the, to take such and such, la-da-da-da-da from the PEG access fund, and
Yep.
usually someone stands up and goes, what's the PEG access? That's the free money we get
That's
from this.
right.
And then everyone sits down and we vote it in.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure that, that I work with them and I know where it is and that they can't use money that's for legal fees for anything else. That's why I wanted to separate it. It just makes it clear, there's no misunderstanding what that money is for. But again, it's not the end of the world, but it would
So
be
you're
better.
gonna create another account?
Yeah, I would just put another line
5,300.
item there.
It's not gonna be a new account, it's just gonna be a new line item.
Just a new line item, but account number to line
It's
item.
gonna be the
is what
same
he
thing,
suggested.
purchase services.
It's gonna say legal fees.
We spent years trying to get rid of it, all these extra lines.
Now we're gonna put it back.
We try
Trying to
to
make it- so
keep
you're trying to make it
these
a
things and
It's like the cell
I'm sorry,
phone.
just trying to, you're trying to make it a sub, that same account number, but a sub of that account for legal fees?
No,
Use
that,
your breakdown, is that what you mean?
well, it's gonna be 5,200 something, because it's a purchase service.
Well, that's just it, it's gonna be that, yeah. It's
No,
gonna-
I'm just saying,
Yeah, it's gonna be
you
part
can
of
do
that
whatever you
number.
want, if that's what you wanna do, that's
I'll
fine.
have, Todd, going back to my old account, I'll have Dan set up an account for it, so it's clear.
Whatever.
Any other, go ahead, Ted,
I have two questions.
you only are allowed one.
Yes.
Pay extra.
I'm gonna
It
make
could
a
be a
run- I'm
long
gonna make
one.
a run-on sentence.
Compound, make it a compound question.
That's good.
So if this is a revolving account, there is an offset in the revenue side that addresses?
No, it's a little different, the revenue goes, I think the revenue goes just into this account, but there is another revenue account that's, it's more like an article than an account though, right? Cause the money sits there from year to year. So it's more like an article, but I don't think it's called an article, there's another name for it.
It's like.
It's a
the-
revolving
it's-
fund is what it
It's
is,
like
I
the,
think.
it's like recreation. The money that gets brought into that fund, it gets spent out of that fund.
Right.
Never goes into the general fund.
It's like a separate bank account.
Yeah, that's.
Now,
that's
how
what's there.
come on this budget, it looks nothing like this?
Well, I'm confused as to what you're saying.
Right,
It should look the
so-
same.
so
Look at the same. The cable access
There's
is-
actually no town admin budget here, and it says 133.
None of them have town admin budget, oh no, the town
And the
admin,
total over here is 163. So is that throwing the whole thing off by 30 grand, or?
there's town admin budget. This is town admin budget, right
No,
here.
this is
And this is
cable down here.
cable here, but this is the town administration line.
So that says 133, doesn't it?
It does.
And
It's
doesn't
like
this say
recreation, safety.
163?
Separate.
It's all its own little
Okay.
entity.
Yes, we do.
Peter,
That's,
there must have been
Because
some
if they
change that
overspend,
we talked about.
comes
because
out
Oh,
of general
well,
fund.
there.
It went from 163 down to 133. My recommendation, so something happened, which got cut, let me just see his
Came real
budget
close,
request.
2 years in a row.
18, 10,
That's why the-
but the budget request from 23 that you gave me, it says 133,935,
What was the
Peter.
total number in that?
And that's the number I'm using, so why is the,
434,000.
why is the department requesting about 163? Because the number that it says in the budget request on the big spreadsheet says 133,995, and I didn't cut anything, I kept it the same. So something's changed from the sheet that
So
you gave me.
well, remember that I did send you an updated sheet. When we had some changes to equipment and projects. Because one project got done in this year, so we didn't have to carry it
So
forward.
so that
And we
must be on a
discovered
certain
different
line item,
one.
let's just see what that line item is.
That
So-
item would have to be equipment and projects.
Nope, your wages went
The wages are.
57 down to
The
47.
lines actually have different names, too.
Wages,
You got capital outlay on this, and you got
Where is
project.
that?
That is not cable access.
It's
I don't know what that
199.
is. Let me say that differently. Those are
On
not
big-
the accounts
it's
I'm used to
account
dealing
number
with on my
199
budget.
on the big spreadsheet.
5110-511, that's the number.
Oh,
Except it says-
199?
The cable company, yeah, it says,
Oh, those numbers are different.
57,199, yep, it went from 57,534 to 47 grand. It was 10 grand, $334 cut.
From my
from the
salaries?
Salary accounts. What's your, let me see your spreadsheet here, look at the updated spreadsheet, is there an updated
The
spreadsheet?
updated spread, which
What-
one are you
What sheets do
looking
you
for?
have? Cable
This-
access, what do
this-
you have for the wages?
It's
57?
47.
You have 47 in your tables,
Yeah.
huh? And not in the major spreadsheet, but in the backup material, okay?
No, in the backup material, it's
57.
57,334, sorry.
Right, and over here you've got
47.
47. Right.
Can we
But the other
just-
ones are the
Can
same.
we
The
just
other
say
ones
the
are the
133 doesn't matter, that's on the spreadsheet and move on?
10.
Well, we gotta
That's
make
what
it right, whatever right is, but the only reason I
True, but
would've
not
changed
right
those
now.
numbers if Pete gave me those numbers, so I'm a little confused where we are, what happened.
Yeah, I mean, this is the spreadsheet I sent you. Granted, second edition, but that number didn't change.
I don't know why it's
Not yet.
different. We've gotta fix it though. So I guess the answer is this, since it's a revolving fund, it's not gonna change the general fund budget, but we do need to adjust those numbers correctly. I'm not sure what happened, Dave, because the number's differently and he's absolutely right, the number's different in that book. And it shows it, the budget request is different numbers, so I'm not sure what's going on. But how come your budget,
Oh, God.
how come it went up by $12,000 from your 22 budget?
That includes a step increase.
So,
It's a 10 grand increase, it's a 13 grand increase, so that's not right,
Yep.
Peter.
I'm listening to you.
Something's wrong.
There's something on those numbers.
Yes, dear.
when we talk
You got more than
bottom
enough
line
money
here,
for legal.
when we talk the total
Something's
budget,
wrong.
Yes, this isn't in it.
this
So we
is
have to
not in,
look at this
so it
revolving
does
fund.
not add up into that?
No, this is appropriated from a
No,
separate
it doesn't.
account. From a separate-
Something got
What I'm,
changed.
what I'm saying is, bottom
And
line
it
here,
doesn't make
very-
sense.
Doesn't- it doesn't have anything
Five
to
to
do with this,
57.
right?
It doesn't. So when you look at the
should.
very front sheet of the revenues, you'll see revenue transfer from other funds of 133,935. So that offsets the expense.
Yeah.
So,
Right, that should be balanced, and it
so
should be
my
133.
problem is, how do you know that everything else in this spreadsheet isn't adding up into that bottom line like it should be?
I don't know.
I'm sorry, say that again?
We have a
So,
Karen.
what we're saying is,
Karen's
what I'm
checking
hearing
it.
is,
We
that
have
the
a Karen.
bottom line of the big spreadsheet, the
Yep.
very total line,
Yep.
does not include cable,
Which it shouldn't. Well, it does.
does not include the
I
numbers
think-
for
I
cable
think-
in the spreadsheet.
So I have to think of it again, but I think it actually does.
It
It
does.
does
It's an
include it
offsetting
because
revenue
there's
in
an
the revenue line.
offset
All right.
in the revenue.
So an
No, no.
offset in the revenue line,
And I
so it
understand
does.
that, I
So that's what
understand
you
that,
said.
I'm just trying to get to a point where I understand that the values that are in this column, or the requested column, whatever it is, total to a number.
So those
We can be confident about.
So those revenues and expenses at the 133, because he's just telling me the revenue number matches it. So that matches, I just don't know why that went to 133 from the 163.
Right.
Something had to change for me to put those numbers in. But and what tells me is wrong here, I don't know why the wages would have went from 45 to 57.
Yeah.
That's a huge increase, so
I
something's
think
wrong
you
with
That
the
was for
wages.
the
I think
steps
you
and stuff.
already
Isn't that what
But
you
that
said?
wouldn't put you up, even with the steps, it's not gonna
Oh,
raise it by
okay.
7 grand.
Maybe the legal fee's already in there.
That could be.
No, we didn't put
Maybe
legal
they're
fees.
doing more filming.
Guys, can we bring this one back here, because we need to figure out what happened with this one.
Well,
Something's
frankly,
wrong.
it doesn't matter.
Just so
It
you
doesn't
know,
matter,
Pete,
really,
all I
but
did
I
is
need
I
to be
put in
right.
the 173,684.
163.60.
173.
What's
That-
up?
Yeah,
Numbers
yeah.
down at 10
Thank
grand.
you. The
Right.
fast
Does no
answer
one pay
is,
attention?
Well, we're gonna revise that budget to make that.
so
that
what,
one.
there is another position budgeted this year than was budgeted for last year. That's probably the big difference. Because at the before, we hired Tom, who's now a budgeted person, and we used to have Jake, who we didn't budget for when we did the budget
So
last.
these totals here, 21, 30, 39, 46.
Look
Are
what-
they paying for
Yeah.
accuracy?
Oh, yeah.
I want
This
to
has a-
answer
I
Peter's
believe it
question
does,
over
yes.
here is what I
Yes.
want to do.
Go ahead, what would you like?
So, in answer to what you were just saying,
Right.
several years ago, these budgets, when they came out, you had a column over
Yeah,
here
that's
and
how
it
that's
explained
what
where
comes up right here.
the funds came from.
Right.
So when you saw this cable, you saw over here,
21,
the total for
7,500.
the budget, raise and
I mean, yeah,
appropriate,
I
it would
dig
be
with the
zero.
dollars,
No, the numbers
yeah.
would be there, but then the next column said zero.
Right,
And there was a little note over here, funds are appropriated from cable, what you call, the PEG.
Peg,
It was a year and a half
Isn't that
ago.
a cartoon in the paper, the PEG thing?
So, okay,
I don't know
and
what
I understand what
numbers
you're
you
saying.
But it went
My
away
biggest
about a year
concern
ago
was,
and a half.
just being an old accountant,
Right.
I'm looking at these
Right.
things, I'm saying,
Right.
do they add up?
I
So that
understand
I
what
can
you're
get
saying.
to the bottom line,
Yeah.
that number is right. Now, where the revenues come from, there's a whole nother sheet for that.
Right, so,
Right.
so Tom, what's gonna have to
Karen's
happen
watching that.
is if these are the right numbers at the 57 grand and the 163, if these are the right numbers, that's gonna have to change, which will also change the revenue
And
number.
that's fine.
That's what's gonna have to do to
Yeah.
fix this, if this is right.
Okay.
I just don't know why I put in
Well,
different
it's why
numbers.
we're-
I had to get those numbers
Maybe
from
the
somewhere.
cable commission gave
So I have
themselves
to
a
figure out
bigger
what's
raise.
going on.
It's why we're here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
we're
match
making
it
the
up.
big bucks now.
Yeah, we'll fix it. Let's
something-
vote
They're
to
gonna
fix
get
it
Brad
with the
Pitt
one.
in here for the.
It sounds like the right number is the
He's using a
173.
different spreadsheet, so that's one of the reasons.
So it sounds like the right number is the
Town
173, so
moderator
let's
will
vote
be
that
played
in
by
and I'll
Brad
adjust it.
Pitt.
That's what we're gonna
Go
do.
ahead, tell Randy that.
I have no
All right,
idea what
can we
that
go to
number's
the
coming
next
from.
two?
Yeah, different
I'd love
moderator.
to, but.
All right.
So,
yeah.
Carrie, just so let's
Right.
make sure we understand this.
I
I'm
do
gonna
understand.
adjust this to the 173 number,
173,684.
and then I'll adjust the revenue sheet to make that right with Dan, because
Yep. I've already
I'm
done
gonna
it.
relook and visit why that went wrong, but I wasn't sure.
Okay? Where are we going next?
Well,
He's gonna-
we gotta.
If I get punched.
Go ahead, any more questions on cable?
Any
Our
more
commi-
questions?
our
Anybody have
conservation?
questions on any of our projects?
No, on cable. We went over supplies and equipment project.
Yeah,
Yep.
My question was on purchase services, that's where
Good
we
catch.
stopped.
I have
we
no
went
idea
over
why that
them.
happened.
Well, projects.
we
and
went
new
through them.
cameras.
We did that.
You
Supplies?
did, I didn't. Okay.
Well, that's because you were chit chatting.
No idea
No, I
what
You
was
got
not
questions,
chit-chatting.
ask
Did he
him.
I was
nap?
not, I
Was
was
he
at,
napping?
so I do have one more.
Okay, go ahead, ask
Just
him.
behind the
just wanna
scenes
know
of
what
what
it
it
is.
is.
Yeah.
Just, you mentioned you have a different spreadsheet, but maybe, I don't know if you've eliminated this in the bylaws, but the bylaws specify that you're supposed to use a certain format that's present or asked for, so they all come in the right way, so.
Right, so I used my spreadsheet to develop the budget. I transferred those numbers to Ron's spreadsheet and sent him that
He sent-
spreadsheet,
Which is
he
right
sent the
here.
right
which is
one.
right here.
It sounds.
He sent the right one.
That's right, the only,
It sounds
what's
pretty
think next
confusing
year
to me.
we'll
the
have
last
wrong with
10
the main
minutes.
sheet? Why did they change, why is the main
Yes,
sheet
we
off?
are.
I gotta find out what that is.
It should come in
What happened?
differently, like we
Something
requested.
happened, obviously.
Now,
Another line.
we're gonna parse this one out and put that on the top.
Correct.
Because to change that's
I'm
a
in the
lot
budget
more,
meeting.
Right,
has a little
I'm
bit
in
worse.
the-
Well, that's one of the reasons we were so specific on our side of the thing, to make sure those details stayed in there, so.
He just said he's gonna have everything all set in Excel, as long as he gets to come back. He's like,
Please tell me that we have somebody waiting in the wings.
we do?
Board of
Okay.
Appeals and
Okay, what's
The
next?
Board of Appeals is nothing.
What I did not mention, and I don't know if you wanna go over it, are things
Now?
about Conservation Commission.
Okay.
If you don't want to, it's okay.
No,
It's
no.
about futures. It's not about this year.
You got more legal fees coming? Don't even bring that up on the.
That's on TV, it's a joke.
I just slid back
Well, those of you who think I can't go too far, I haven't even started yet. But
That'll be gone. That'll be a little snip in the
Okay,
tape.
so
that's okay. I know the people doing the editing.
the Board of Appeals is just two little lines, 350 and 300. 350 is for the clerical work. I'm assuming that's all the work that.
We
our-
can
our
read
clerk
the
does.
numbers, but the problem is that we invite these people to come
I
to
don't-
present
Who'd you
their
invite here,
budget.
the chairman of the commission?
Yes,
Do you think he forgot? Did he?
I sent a reminder email.
What's that?
I sent a reminder email.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
So your babysitter?
Yeah, this is minor,
Oh, yeah?
but somebody should have came.
she sends them to us to make sure that we remember to come. She sends them to them. The kids go to school without lunch because she sent it out email.
There's a lot going on.
What are we doing now? We're doing what now?
Board of Appeals?
Board of
Yeah,
Appeals,
Board of
because
Appeals.
Peter just said he, okay,
No,
you can't, all right.
So,
Karen said no.
so Board of Appeals again is nothing. It's the clerical work for Tamika to do the work, and $300 is for their ads and stuff that they have to do, their public notices. That's all. It's the whole thing is $650. So.
Okay,
also remember that they're gonna have a revolving fund set up at annual
Yeah, we're
meeting,
working on
at
that.
annual town
we're
meetings, so that,
hopefully
well,
going to
that's
set
true.
up.
It will
It's
be
not a
put, it will be
guarantee.
put forth.
So maybe we get to talk to Dan and make sure that gets done too.
Okay, so I have a question.
Go ahead.
So under purchase services, where we just discussed it, and that we've added money to that recently and previously.
You
So
talking about
is
zoning
that
board of
enough to
appeals?
have in there?
You talking about zoning board of appeals?
Yes.
Zoning Board of
So,
Appeals?
so again, that's gotta be changed.
It's not
So it's
gonna
there's, in this issue with zoning board of appeals, is one legal case, okay? And I guess the question, Tommy, goes as to when that case ends. If legal fees are gonna be needed all the way, we're talking about after July. I don't think so, but I can't swear to it, but I don't think so. I think that case should be over. Now, once we put this into a revolving fund and the revenue comes in, we'll have the money to pay that kind of thing in the future. I guess the question is, like other revolving funds, we don't have any money budgeted for it, then we won't have any money, we can't do anything until the next town meeting, right?
Right, that's not enough.
So,
Because
and
last year we budgeted that and we
we had the transfer
got-
for the legal fees, right?
Right, but the only other thing that I would have a concern with too is it's gonna be a revolving fund, like you
Right.
said, that
We need-
if it does get voted, et
Right,
cetera,
and
et
that's
cetera.
one
Yeah.
legal
But-
posting.
And the thing is
To get
that
started during the
months are
year,
different.
it's gonna take a while for that to
It's gotta start somewhere.
get some
To
money
build
to
up.
get going, so.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm wondering if that was enough to cover
This is,
that expectation until it could,
till it gets going.
this is what they
Right.
budget for every year. The legal
Yeah.
fee is new because they have this legal case, because
No, well, legal
David
fees is under
enforcing it, but-
purchase services, whatever.
It's not gonna be the only ever legal thing.
No,
No.
the thing is last year we cut them, the year before that we cut them. In the past, we haven't had as much activity in the zoning board of appeals as we have these last couple of
Right.
years.
Correct.
'cause you
So
have
we
the building
had a
inspector.
really low, I mean, they never met, and now they're meeting constantly,
Spending money.
right?
Yeah, I.
So when we set up, Karen, help me with this, because you know how we set up in the budget, we put, this is the maximum the planning commission could spend, this is the maximum each of those revolving funds can spend?
Yes,
If we put that number to be higher than the number in the budget, that allows us to spend up to that amount, even if it's not in the budget? How does that work?
no, because
Oh, yeah.
you can never expend beyond what's in the fund. So,
Well, no, that's, okay, I know, but so that, at that line item though, I'm talking about where it says the planning board can spend this amount, that every board.
that's a
If that, we
revolving
put in,
fund.
Out of their
right,
On the
revolving.
that's the
fund.
revolving fund.
Yeah,
When we put in the revolving fund, we put an amount there, that should take care of the legal, right?
well,
it's
only
not,
if,
it's
only if you
only
get an
if the
income.
money has been flowing in.
Well, yeah, if we get
We're
the
not
money.
having any money flowing in, we have to put more in here to get the, this is one legal posting and, what, 2 meetings?
Yeah,
About?
Yep.
That's
That's,
a good question,
Yeah,
how are we gonna
be-
do that?
So in fact,
That
I,
number from 2015 or 18, we should be
Okay,
back
we-
at that big a number?
We do have money we can play with there. We
Back
have
in
80 grand we can
2018, it
play
was
with.
17 grand.
So we could put a couple of grand in there if you think it's
I don't-
appropriate.
I don't think we should, I don't think we need that, I think maybe we do like 3 or 4 times this, but that's about it.
Why did, what do you think about taking just like 2 grand for legal fees added to this account? We remember, we're up about, I don't know, 60 or 80 grand in the sheets, I could be the budget adjustment sheet. But is this a place we might wanna stick some money to make sure we don't have a problem in the future? Whatever number you want, I don't care, I'm just thinking that,
Well,
that's
we'll
what we
have
do.
to,
At least, I think at least the amount to start, so until you see how that revolving fund starts to
Yeah,
Excuse me?
cover all these other costs.
Yeah, but if the revolving, if the
we did,
revolving
but the
fund
problem
doesn't
comes in
occur.
where,
If it does,
Hasn't
right.
given us-
until stuff flows in,
Correct.
it's just like you open up a bank account, put 50 bucks in it.
there.
That's not enough to pay the stuff that's gonna be paid out.
I don't know why it wouldn't be approved.
It's gotta be.
Said yes to, I don't.
no, but
I
the truth,
am-
I mean, the legal fees for the current issue are not going to be fulfilled with money coming into the revolving
Right.
funds, because they aren't gonna get, I don't believe they're gonna get any more fees for that issue.
Right.
The hearing's already been
Yep.
dealt with, and those, so we've already collected what we're going to on that.
So the question
So
is-
any legal fees for that defense won't be able to come out of the revolving fund.
Madam
I
Secretary.
can't imagine that case is gonna go on another 3 months, but I don't know.
Madam, who? Secretary of State. Madam Chairwoman, sorry for being a jerk.
That's okay.
Can
Can't help
we
it.
just have, yeah, it's, can we have the town administrator come back with a number that he would like to put in here and just tell us what he wants? Because we
So-
don't need to
so
discuss
Darren?
this.
I mean, I can give you that guess now because I don't know, I mean, I don't think there's gonna be any way to determine the cost of that legal case ongoing.
I'd
And I can
rather,
ask the attorney if they give you some
I'm
kind of
thinking at
estimate.
this point, you gotta talk with, the chair,
Or the-
Mr. Charette. Yeah, it's not just legal fees. This, we're gonna need a few meetings for Tamika's time to handle them. We're gonna need a few postings in the journals,
In the paper.
because by the time you get the fees, you've already spent the money, so it's,
All right, I'll talk to I'll talk to the chairman of the committee and we'll come up with a number, Darren.
Whatever you, I mean,
And I
just,
don't know what the right number is, I'm gonna have to have that conversation, I don't know.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah, the answer is we'll do that.
so we can, add that on to after, recreation and safe place, please.
Yeah,
Does
we're
that
gonna have
work?
to revisit it, yeah.
who's this? Rick?
And who's the head of the agricultural commission?
Quick. Not I'm sorry,
Is that
I'm
Jordan?
going back to zoning board of
No.
appeals.
No.
Glenn
It's not
is,
Kate
Dave
Glenn.
Dolan?
Yep, I
It's
invited-
Glenn Coppola?
Correct, I invited
Okay.
him as well.
yeah,
Oh, there's $250 we just saved.
Do we have any money in our budget for
yeah.
We just take it out. They don't show up,
That's
take
right.
$250
They're never
out.
gonna miss it.
Can't
Again,
show
that-
up?
Again, the
Do
reason
we
we
have
put
money
that
in
in
our
there,
account for magnifying glasses?
the reason we put that in there is because if you hold hearings and stuff, they have to have some money to do that stuff.
Could we,
It's nickel and dime, but it's for a newspaper article, postings if you have to do any kind of posting.
Now, what are
for
we,
phone.
we're on agriculture now, one
That's
seventy-nine?
it.
179.
Yeah, just leave the 250 alone. They may need, they have to
That's
legally
good.
do it, so.
They didn't show up.
I understand.
It's like when you don't show up to
Still-
a management
I
meeting
understand
and
what you're saying.
volunteer
But
to
we
do
still
stuff,
have
it's
an
the same
obligation as a
thing.
town to hold legal hearings,
It's
so it
okay, let's move on.
doesn't change.
That's it.
Just leave
All
the
right,
money
anything
alone.
else? Do you
Unless
have
Karen
anything
has
else you
something
would
else
like?
she wants to share with us.
Do you have anything else? you'd like to
I
say?
sent you guys all the stuff from
We're gonna have
Seth
to do that cable.
regarding the problems. They're working through it all now.
Yeah.
But
Do you have
I,
any idea of the total number on the highway department also?
do we know what the overage is for?
All we
for
know is
snow
that
and ice?
before, the last number I had was about 150 grand. Now, I think they had a little bit minor snow since then, so I don't know during
Okay.
the upgrade, but he tells me that potentially they're gonna have snow to the middle of April. I don't know. As a matter of fact, this weekend I saw a weird forecast saying that there's some low coming our way that we might get some more snow this Saturday. So, the last number I had was $150.
They treated the roads
Yes,
for
they
this
did.
last night because of the potential for ice this morning.
It was ice this morning.
Yeah, we got a little bit more to deal with. My guess is it's gonna be around 180 by the time we're done, unless something really happened bad.
We're in New England, it's snowed in May before.
So, that being said, there was a figure somewhere in the 20s, and they are looking at some other places. So what's left in our reserve fund currently is $17,549. I would like to make the motion that we hold that to see what we need for that. No more transfers until we see how they're gonna work that through. He did give us a heads up back in
Yeah, we knew it was coming.
August. We knew it was coming. He did tell us in advance. I would like to say that, I would like to make the motion that we hold off on making any other things until we know how that disposition is gonna
I'll
work.
second it.
May I comment, Madam Chairman?
Yeah.
So the reserve fund is designed for emergencies.
Yep.
So the only way you'd have another request come to you is if there's some emergency. And so if that emergency comes, you're gonna have to deal with it regardless of whatever you vote tonight, just to say, because you're gonna have the emergency, that's really what that's for.
Well, my whole thing
So-
comes in where I need it to get out there because I guess my voice isn't loud enough. Because, this is like the rubber stamp checkbook,
Is
that
it the
people come
running
in.
out of money voice? Is
Yeah,
that what you're
I
saying?
mean, we're at the point now where the reserve fund is pretty much spent.
Yeah.
Even though we have $17,000
So-
in there, it's spent.
So what you're gonna see now, coming into the last quarter, you're gonna see departments trying to move funds around within their department lines. So even that's thing, remember last year, we had a snow deficit, and we, instead of using free cash, Dan and I, we worked together, and he found money within the budget to deal with it. So that's one of the things at the end here we're gonna have to calculate is, do we use all the free cash that we have? Because I think we had 200 plus in free cash. Do we use some of that free cash, and do we work with Dan to make some adjustments in a year? That's gonna be,
Dan's leaving May 31st.
yeah, well, whoever. I think it will be Dan,
I'm just letting you
but
know,
whatever.
Dan's
No, I
leaving May
understand.
31st.
But we're gonna, at the end of the year, we're gonna have to figure out how we're gonna deal with that snow and ice thing. It could be that we use all the free cash.
Well, 'cause
And you remember, so we still have, what's that budget adjustment sheet? It's about 60 grand or 80 grand? We got that money to work with too, remember, that 80 grand. So that money for the next fiscal year, well, that's next fiscal year money, but. But yeah, no, what I'm saying is if we use that and put that to mean for the fiscal, we could lower the fiscal cash for next year, the free cash for next year, and then we'd have more money for snow and ice, right? We don't use the money that we budget 125 grand for free cash. If we don't have to use it because we use some of that 80 grand to deal with that, that would leave us money to deal with the snow and ice for next year too, right? In free cash.
Right, but if you do what you, like last year, if you find balances in numerous accounts that can be transferred,
That's what we're gonna do, right?
well, that's the way to do it.
Well, that's what I say, there's some things that are gonna have to wash in the end to figure out exactly how we're gonna do it, but we
not
have
with how
some,
we budgeted last year. I don't know where those balances are gonna come from. We cut DPW down
Right.
to nothing.
Right.
They were the ones that took the brunt last year.
I know,
So we cut all the fat out of the budget.
Back.
Well, it would be interesting if they found $160,000
don't
in the
even
budget
listen.
everywhere.
Well, not
No,
just,
I
yeah,
tell you
but
where-
it's not
I tell you where you
DPW,
find-
could be some other
Right,
places too that
Right,
haven't
but
been
we
spent.
we went through everything.
Well, there's no question about that, but there was money last year,
Yeah.
there's,
But what-
there's always
what
gonna be
happens,
some
guys,
money left over.
Just so you understand,
Because of the way things work.
one of the accounts that constantly shifts at the end of the year is the payroll accounts. Because what happens is during the middle of the year, somebody leaves and they don't get billed for a month or two, and that money kind of hangs there, is what it is. So the payroll accounts is usually where the transfers come out of payroll and they go into these line items, because something happened in payroll that reduced their staffing for some reason for a period of time. But I mean, that we'll figure that all out, and that,
So are we going
I
to
gotta
figure
talk to
this
Dan
all
about
out
the timing of
prior
it.
to the annual town meeting?
we have to, we don't have a choice, just like we did last year, we figured it out.
Oh, no, you don't have to. You can bring it into next year. It's
Oh, you're talking
not
about
this-
the snow deficit?
Yeah.
I'd rather not.
not a smart
I mean,
idea, but
I'd
you
rather
can't.
not, I'd rather deal
I
with
agree
it
with you.
as much as we can, so, but I think that's still gonna play out, we're still a little early for that.
So we've got,
for that issue.
No town accountant.
So,
well, we're a month away.
right, so we're not done with this process, there's only a couple of little budgets left, except for the schools, but we know what that number's gonna be, right? So, there's a couple of decisions I think you guys are gonna have to make. That 80 grand, there's a couple of things we talked about we'd kinda like to do. We kinda like to add the police vehicle back into the budget, right? We talked about that, instead of using free cash for that. And the firemen have the gear that we talked about, using that money, not using it. But that would still maybe be able to cut us to where we wouldn't have to, if we put that money into the budget, and then we don't have to use all the free cash, then it opens up more free cash for us to spend of that 250 to pay for snow and ice. So that's kind of our final decisions at our last budget night or
Right,
two, we gotta make those
what,
decisions.
what we're going through now, as Karen is doing, she's changing the numbers to make sure that they do total up. And we get to a number.
Yeah.
Once we get to the point where we have a final number, we know what the offsetting revenues are, we're gonna know whether or not we're gonna use 80 or
That-
15.
That's, I said, that's gonna be at the last couple of
That's
meetings
right.
where we make that decision,
So
right?
the only thing is that we're going to need to know, so the warrant articles have to be to everybody, but they closes what, the 5th at noon? So we kind of have to know by that next Monday where we're gonna pay for the snow and ice. That's only 2 weeks.
We're gonna have to talk with Dan and figure it out, yeah. I think you're right, Karen, we're gonna have to figure it out.
Because you can't have.
But Dan needs to know,
As
the numbers
a
first,
finance
so.
committee member and as a taxpayer, there is nothing worse than seeing 150 warrant articles and 50 of them are no action, oh, we didn't need them.
okay, so.
There's nothing worse than that.
So the answer to that, I think, is the quicker we can finish these last little bit of budget work we have and put in final numbers, the easier it will be for Dan to work that out.
We're not talking sizable monies.
Okay,
in
yeah,
the
we're
budget.
almost done.
So,
What do we have left?
but the thing is we're still not talking sizable monies. We've got to start looking at this now
Yeah.
to see where we're paying, because we've got snow and ice and we've got the public safety building. Those are two big things.
So, there's a couple of emails that Joe was talking to me about today. But snow and ice, and there's an energy issue with the amount of energy they've used this year, because all the gas prices and everything went up, so that's gonna be a new cost. And energy, I guess their heating system is having problems and stuff, so I don't know what that number is. I know that the chief wants to sit down and talk to us about it, and find out
He
what
gave us
that.
a spreadsheet, it was 21,6 something.
Did he give it, I just saw the
Yeah,
email
yeah,
today, I didn't go through it,
yeah,
Karen, so
yeah.
I know it's something I was discussing with Joe about the snow and ice. So over the next week, we gotta just work a lot of this stuff out. I'm actually spending a lot of time right now developing the warrant, because we just opened a warrant Monday, but I'm trying to get that warrant as far along as we can, and I'm making really good progress on it. I just need department heads to turn in those warrants. But my goal would be to try to, like I asked the police chief and the fire chief to give me articles for the police car and for the equipment, but I'd just as soon not have to put those articles in and take the money from that 80 grand, which is, I think, is easy to do. Either way, it's gonna end up being all about free cash for how we pay those bills.
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
Karen's right, we gotta work it out over the next week or two, we gotta get it all
Yeah,
cleared
2
out.
weeks.
So
Because
I'll start opening those
when
discussions.
it closes on the 5th, and before it goes to the select board, we have to know, because when we start hashing it out, having a joint meeting, we need to know what we have for free cash and,
Right.
Yep.
and where we're planning on using it. Oh, we've got this covered through this, or we've got this covered through
Yep.
this. And here's what we have to cover, and we've got this.
May I ask a kind of related question?
No.
I'm talking as the chair of the ad hoc bylaw committee. As you may remember, we originally asked for $8,000 for legal review, and we got $4,000 allocated. When is the right time for us to write the warrant article to get the other $4,000-ish, which it'll be a little less than that.
Fiscal year 2050.
Well, how do you do a warrant article?
Right?
Wait a minute, stop, let's go back a minute here. The bylaws that you're trying to finish are to put on the warrant. How do you write a warrant article after you?
No, this is for the ones that,
You're talking about the next section of
the
bylaws.
next section of bylaws,
Okay.
yes, to do the remainder of the body.
I would say that after our discussion here tonight, not at this town meeting.
So,
There's no free cash. It's gonna be a free cash.
that's okay, so then that probably means fall.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're close, but we gotta do a little bit of
That's,
work.
yeah, I'm not trying to say we have to have, I'm not trying to do anything or exert more pressure. I'm just trying to,
This will all work out.
Light my way
We
a
just need to
little bit.
finish the budget so we have the numbers
I
and
don't
we can
think
work
we-
with Dan to figure it out.
I'm not feeling rosy feeling that we're that close. I think we're close, like hand grenade close. I
We're
don't think-
close. We're
No,
closer
we're
than we
close.
were last year.
Oh, we're way closer than we were last
We're
year.
closer than we were last year.
So-
but we've
But there's
gotta-
still a couple sleepers out there
Yeah.
that we don't know.
Right. We're still waiting to see that health insurance,
That's just a couple of $1,000.
no, if they put in that HRA that the broker's looking at,
We're not gonna
I
get
don't
that
wanna
this
hear
year. I'm
shaking
telling you,
the
it ain't gonna
head.
happen from what I know,
Talk
but
to the
whatever.
broker. Do you want me
But
to
the
call
bro-
him?
the
Give me
worker-
the number,
Becky's
I'll
doing
call
it
him.
with the broker. You can talk to Becky, she's the one working with the broker, but
I mean,
It ain't
there's,
happened this
we
year, I
did
don't
this in
think.
3 weeks at my company.
I don't know what to tell you, but.
We've gotta start looking at these things.
Yeah, from what I understand, that the most that they can do is the town could pay half of the deductible. That's what Becky told me, that we can't do the whole deductible, we could do half of the deductible. And that would mean that there'd be significant increase in deductible for the employees, and they're gonna go crazy, and it would have to be negotiated. I don't even know, maybe it doesn't have to be negotiated, but we aren't gonna go to war with the employees again after we went to war with them last year. It doesn't make sense, but whatever.
I'll call Becky and
Call
ask for
Becky.
Brian's
Okay.
number.
So we have just a little housekeeping. We have a motion and a second
Yes,
to freeze the reserve fund as to where it is now.
just so that we get the word out that we think it's spent.
If there was an emergency, we can change that.
Right.
We can, but I need it to get out there because people tend to spend and think that they can come to the reserve fund.
After the fact.
So I would say what your recommendation is that to the department heads, and I'll send it to the department heads, that instead of looking at reserve, they should look within their budget if they have shortfalls to find other line items. so
Yeah.
they can- And I'll send that message out to department heads
Yeah,
Monday,
because,
okay?
because
Because that's where we got to, that's what you're
we've gotta
really
keep that
suggesting.
in reserve to give, to help pay for all these things that have already been
And
spent.
truthfully, they know that. I know the police and fire know that already. But I'll send it out to everybody saying that, don't be looking at the reserve account, it's very low. You should be looking within your budget if you think there's anything that has to change.
Yes, Tom. Go ahead, Tom.
There can't be anything spent out of there until we have a request come before us. And if
Right.
we don't have the money to do it, or we can't do it, it's a no then.
Right.
Well,
The problem comes in, they spend the money
They
and
can't
then
spend the
come
money
to
unless
us.
they
Can't
have
spend
it.
the money unless they have it.
If they're spending money they don't have, they're not supposed to be doing that, period.
Zoning Board of Appeals, was the money spent?
Ma'am.
Well, maybe, wait, I'm not saying whether it was done, I'm saying they're not supposed to spend the money unless they have it available, period.
sometimes it's easier to be able to ask for
Period.
forgiveness than rather than
I
ask for
think
removal.
that
And it's supposed to be for emergencies, like you said earlier. It's
That's why I
supposed
said,
to be for an
the vote, I think the
emergency.
vote she's trying to say is more of a message than
I
anything
think
else.
I
I understand what she's trying to do,
that
the message
the
was.
finance committee, working with the town administrator, has sent a pretty strong message to said town administrator that the reserve fund is done.
Yeah,
And
they
I
have
think
to
it would be, unless it was a dire emergency, I don't think a very capable town administrator is gonna
dear,
come and whack us
So
with it.
it,
Right.
the
It's
only one
gonna
that would come
through
to you for reserve fund is me. So,
Right.
so
That's
it's
where
coming
I'm
from me
going, no.
because they have to get me to approve
But
it
you
before it
gotta,
comes
but
to
you
you.
need
So
to, but you need to let the departments know.
I will
Yeah,
let the
you have
departments
to
know.
let them know, that's all.
Monday I'll let the departments know, or tomorrow I'll let the departments know. The vote is more informational than valuable, but I understand what you're trying to say.
So we've only got a couple more motions to do. One is this one that it's on the table now, and then they adjourn it. I'd like to be able to get to the second one as quickly as we
We'll
can.
withdraw that one and we'll get to the second one quick.
I withdraw my motion.
I'll withdraw my second.
Okay.
What's the-
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, that's the motion. That's good. What's the motion?
All
I'll
in
get that
favor?
message out tomorrow.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Um,
Okay, we are adjourned at 6:56.